When God made Adam and Eve and humanity, He made them start as young babies and go through a process to get to adulthood. The physical path to adulthood is pretty automatic. The internal and character part, not so much. Sometimes we don't have all the ingredients and relationships we need to become an adult on the inside. Dr. Cloud talks about the 4 stages or parts of the growth process. One of these parts is resolving the good-bad split. That is, when something doesn't go right or the way we hoped, we tend to make people or situations either all good or all bad, instead of seeing them as they are, a mixture of good and bad. We often have to work to integrate the two so we see things how they are. Back in the garden, one of the toughest things for Adam and Eve to realize was how they could put things above their relationship with God and people. When Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life was kicking in. The lust of the eyes is seeing something that somebody else has and saying to yourself, I want that. I gotta have that for myself. Lust of the flesh is having certain desires for things like love, success, etc., and other things in life. Pride of life is getting cool points from your peers for things we've achieved or done, our strengths and abilities, or things that we have, etc. Things like that. God made us with desires for love, a career, success, etc. And these are good desires. It's when we lift these above relationships and are willing to break relationships that it becomes a bad thing. We also have the capacity to put ourselves at the center of things so that it becomes a black hole and we become a taker. Everything is about us. That is the sin nature. It takes a long time to realize the difference between being competitive and making good sacrifice to make it, and making it an idol that you sacrifice relationships to. Like when you're in college, it's a huge sacrifice of time and money to get a degree, but that's a good sacrifice compared to being at work and running over others to advance yourself. It's hard, especially when one is trying to do the right thing, to realize that you have weaknesses along with the strengths and selfishness, and we let down others and God and our weaknesses and bad choices that we make. In Mark 14:10-26, it's talking about the Last Supper and how Jesus is preparing to go to the cross to take our sins upon himself, and he's spending time with the disciples. This is also talks about how Judas is planning to betray Jesus. The heartbreaking thing about this passage was that while Jesus was planning to redeem and restore the relationship with humanity and God, Judas was planning to betray him. We're often shocked by Judas's betrayal of Jesus. Since Judas had spent 3 years in close relationship with Jesus, we wonder what could have prompted him to act as he did. Yet if we're truly honest with ourselves, we may see the potential in our own heart. Whenever we refuse to give Jesus authority or make him Lord over certain areas of our life, we act like Judas. Whenever we promise to do one thing and do another, we act like Judas. We've all betrayed God in some way or another. We should use Judas's failure as an opportunity to take a hard look at our own life. In what ways are we betraying God or practicing idolatry? Some words for God and our things in our relationship with God are like things in our relationship with people, but they have a special vocabulary word. In marriage, it's called adultery. In a relationship with God, it's called idolatry, putting things above the relationship. God has his eyes wide open. He could see when Judas was planning to betray him. God could see how things would turn out with humanity when he made them. Most likely that a cross would be involved. God's grace isn't cheap, but it's abundant like a river of life. Sorry for the quality of the recording. My equipment is simple. I'm still learning to edit.